and gentlemen, to EU League. It's our final play day, and our first matchup is a French versus Russian games. Virtus.Pro versus UnKnights. And I am curious to see how this one goes, as VP have missed their shot at the 6th Major in Mexico. UnKnights, well, they have as well, so I'm technically right in that case. Welcome back. I'm Alistair Medic, host of the show. With me are Hap and Jess. We're going to break things down for these two teams, starting off with UnKnights, our French squad in this series. So let's put their roster up on the board and talk about how they've been doing here.
So there is going to be a little bit of a change. Nure is not playing, and we're going to have their coach Spoken to step in. And, you know, they haven't really been able to put up the performances yet that they really wanted to put up. There's been a lot of times where they've shown a lot of potential, but a lot of times where they also just fell short. Take a look at that previous game, for example. Up until the end of the first half, they were really able to compete and to trade rounds, but as soon as they stepped over to the attack themselves, it just all fell flat. And that is really something that they need to work at for the game here today and for Stage 3 to avoid relegations.
Their opponents today will be one of my favorite teams from the CIS region, although Team Empire looking really well oiled recently as well. It is going to be Virtus.Pro, and they themselves have had a few roster changes that we've spoken about recently, and then they thought, you know what, just bring WTG back. He's doing okay. He's feeling a little bit better, so as a result, he is playing back again, but he wasn't in the boot camp. He was playing from home, so there was a little bit of distance there, but that did not stall his absolute battle that he had against multiple teams in, I guess, since he's in position, if we would call it that. And, well, they are locked in 6th place at the moment, and that's what they finished Stage 1 in as well. So unfortunately for VP, they haven't really outdone themselves in any way, shape or form. They consistently sit around the middle pack, and hopefully in Stage 3 they'll break it. But this game is very important, because if you lose against UnKnights, it tells a pretty sad tale. I was going to say somber tale, but things were getting mixed up in there.
Somber as well is very good. Very good wordplay there.
Thank you.
So how do we talk about our head-to-head? You guys picked one player out of each one of these two teams, and who are they? It's Milan and the Blaz. I guess 2 top players in their squads?
Of course.
Wow.
You know what we got to do on the last day? We picked our MVPs for each statistical area, and now we've picked the MVPs, at least rating-wise, between all of the teams today. For this particular matchup, Milan was the highest-rated player on the side of VP, and then Blaz, of course, on the side of UnKnights. The biggest thing for me when it comes to Milan, I called him the Rookie of the Year last year. He has absolutely kept up the pace here. He's the leading charge for VP, and if a couple of other players could put on the consistency he put on, then their team would be flying well above 6th position.
I think the nice thing to say about Blaz is that it is just a young player with a lot of talent. Like, I've seen him come up. For example, he played Benelux before, he played Challenger League, and we saw him go all the way through. And I know many said Nure was going to be Shaiko, you know, the new coming of Shaiko, but I think Blaz would be maybe a bit more suited by the moment how he can just insert himself into the site and just get kill after kill after kill.
Confidently too.
And he admitted, I believe, that he struggled a little bit with the confidence at the start of the stage, but he's starting to get into that now. And you see him grow throughout these stages as well. And I really hope that he's going to be able to have an amazing last matchup here in Stage 2. And, well, no pressure really for Stage 3, because he's just developing as a player.
Good way to close off the stage for a lot of teams competing today that don't have as much on the line as, of course, Vitality and Navi, who are really hammering things through today. Our map, though, for this series, of course, all best-of-1 series that we have here in EUL with our overtime rule, which, honestly, man, that made all of our lives so much better when it was introduced early in the year.
And it gives a lot of fairness to the teams as well, so I'm very happy about it.
Des is praying, by the way, right now.
He's Chalet, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, is he? I didn't realize what he was doing over there. It just looked like he was just having a moment. So
I think we've had more of that. I think, and lucky we can quickly cut to them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which one it is.
Let's see the maps. Come on.
They're giving us, you know, when
suspense.
Suspense. Thank you. It's a suspenseful moment. Oh,
okay. Chalet tagged out for VP just to make Des unhappy, which honestly. Great decision there. Virtus.Pro picked up Villa at the end. They're starting on the attacking side, so UnKnights on defense. So
I like this. Guess what? It's a direct rematch from Stage 1. They went up against, UnKnights went up against VP Stage 1 on Villa, and UnKnights lost. I believe they got 7-3'd by Virtus.Pro. And so to come into this stage, verse this team again and decide, okay, we're going to go to the very same map, they've either looked at what they did last stage. I know there's been changes, but yeah.
I just have a single point. We basically said when they played against Empire, Virtus.Pro, like, hey, Villa is their map. They should no way be losing this. And of course, Empire is a team that is going to the 6th major, has been performing a little bit more, but there's always that opportunity that there is something found in that matchup they could use to counter the setups.
Yeah, I'm always curious to see how Villa goes, and who doesn't like going for a quick trip to Tuscany, eh, Jess?
I'm going to Italy tomorrow, so catch you all there.
So there you go. Jess, Hap, thanks so very much. It's UnKnights versus Virtus.Pro, our first game of this final Playday in EU League, and we've got Ace and Des to take us through it. It's Tuscany, it's Villa. Have fun, boys.
Thank you very much, Milosh. Not going to lie, not too beat up about the fact that Chalet got banned away for Villa. It is one of my favourite maps to watch at the moment. Maybe Empire have made it quite fun to watch a couple of times in this stage. So let's see then how things boil down. This is kind of the warm-up act it feels for the rest of the day, Ace, but for UnKnights, you really can't ignore the impact this is going to have on the end of Stage 3 and potential relegation.
It's a very important game, Des. You know, we say this about every single matchup. It's, yes, very important come the end of Stage 3 and those relegations, but it's not just about that. It's about the foundation for Stage 3. It's about how are you leaving Stage 2? How are you then carrying momentum forward into that next and final stage, which it just gets more and more important.
What's your legacy, Ace? What's your Stage 2 legacy? What's everyone going to remember from your last game of the stage? Because a whole stage of wrongs can be forgotten very quickly if you say, man, that last game, though, they look seriously hot. Let's get into our operator ban. So Thatcher, no doubt, going to be one of them. It seems to be the go-to throughout the day. And UnKnights banning away Sledge. Okay. We saw this banned away last week, actually. I forget the game it was in. Maybe not last week. It was Navi's game against Empire on Consulate. The Sledge was banned away, I think it was. I forget. Pretty sure it was the Sledge. Maybe I forget either way. Interesting ban coming through, given there is a lot of soft destruction and also the fact that Sledge fits into most lineups these days. So those 2 frag grenades taken away. The second attacking ban going to be the Thatcher.
That will be our attackers lined up, so we will now have 2 defensive operators taken out. So these defenders and attackers are taken out of the pool for the entire matchup, however long that might be, 12 rounds, 15 rounds if we go to overtime.
Knowing us, 15.
Very possibly, these will be unavailable. First defender taking a little bit of time for Virtus.Pro to have a think about that. They're going to come through with the Wamai ban.
Nice, okay. Makes those locations a bit harder to hold down. Although whenever I see, for example, the EMPs available for the attackers with the Thatcher, you're always thinking, okay, well, maybe the Wamai won't be as effective with it taken away here. Both removed from the field. So wanting to remove the strength of those would-be anti-utility setups where you stack up the Jaeger and the Wamai together. Also, the fact that Wamai is quite popular these days, no surprise at all to see it going away. And the final one, surprising absolutely no one, I'm sure, is going to be the Mirror.
Could be a little bit of a response to the Sledge ban there coming in from Virtus.Pro as well. Okay, if you're going to take away some of our nades, we're going to take away some of your utility denial, because you need to think about that potentially. You know, which operators can you bring? What are your compositions now looking like? And how many of those gadgets can you realistically clear out?
I was going to say Maverick Iana surely every single round here for the frags, but nope, just the Iana at least being hovered for now by Virtus.Pro. We are starting on that south side site to Aviator Games. I believe it has something ludicrous like a 92% defensive win rate as well in EUL. I was looking over the stats yesterday and I was just like, whoa, that is a nutty stat. The other site's not so hot. Trophy and Statue is down below 50%, but Aviator Games, real solid bastion there for the defenders to hold on to. Made only the more harder by the fact there is going to be a Goyo on side along with the Mute.
So we get into our preparation phase. Now 45 seconds for the defenders to set up the site here. The reinforcements going out straight away. You can see how well versed these teams are in these setups. They know exactly what their job is, whether it's deploying the barbed wire, hitting the reinforcements, where the gadgets need to go. Everything about this is set out, it's pre-planned, and it is all there in a schedule to be ticked off one at a time until they're ready for that action phase.
Worth noting as well, I'd be remiss not to highlight it again as you're seeing it on your screen right now. We have got Spoken in place of Noera today on the side of UnKnights. Don't want to go too deep into Noera, of course. We don't know the situation with him here, but You can't ignore the stats at the minute, and he was the bottom-rated player in all of EUL across any team, playing as well on these more aggressive roaming-based picks. So no big scramble in terms of roles on the side of UnKnights. Spoken is stepping into those shoes that Noera was in, playing on the Jaeger, looking to have that impact in the early round, at least you're hoping for.
92.31% to answer your question, Des. Aviator Games, defender win rate, but also important to point out that's on a sample size of 13 rounds that we've had there. So
only
we've not had a huge
lost
amount so far, but we're going to have a bunch more here, I would expect, two at least from the side of UnKnights whilst they are on defence. Now, Ras getting aggressive. Look at that, Des. Straight up. Headshot onto Durza and cleans the man straight out of Astro. Nearly takes Voy as well. Big early statement coming in from Virtus.Pro.
Voy is a lucky boy walking away on what, 2 HP? God, so close to having the 2 entry kills. Would have been a thunderous start for Rask. And we've seen him do this a couple of times in the last few weeks. Think back to his game on Oregon. We saw BDS play in one of their games. Shaiko drops 18 kills. VP step up to the plate next. He drops like 21 or something ludicrous. Had a good few weeks on him, to be fair. And hopefully this is one of those games to end the stage strong for Virtus.Pro. And here, a minute and 15 in. Yes, it's only one down, but that's going to put the heebie-jeebies a little bit up the UnKnights side.
Rask really wants this second kill, doesn't he? Chasing his man, and he's going to get it. It took him a little while, but absolutely shuts down Voy. 5 versus 3 now. Virtus.Pro really in the ascendancy. Could they be the ones to buck the trend of Aviator Games? We have a nitro thrown out. Detonation, I believe, happened, but will not be successful in finding a kill now. WTG is still downstairs. Could find himself into the mix with Blaz here, who's playing on the Valkyrie underneath, and it seems like each is aware of the other, or at least somebody holding ground in those areas. But we just get to one of those tense moments, a little bit of a standoff, and it's Blaz who comes away, putting that MPX to great work, gets himself a headshot onto WTG, and that's UnKnights fighting back here in round 1, levelling things out at 3-3, but Blaz gets himself spotted underneath by Pasha using the reverse vertical angle, and once again it's advantage Virtus.Pro.
I think in that case there, he was still like a gargoyle for so long watching the red hallway. Here's a sound to his right, instantly flex kills the man, straight back onto red hallway. Very composed coming out from Blaz, does get traded out. It's a good team play coming out of Virtus.Pro. But given the start to the round they had, they need to be looking at closing this out. But you are attacking into, again, the most defensively sided site in the game right now. Spoken goes down as well. Chaox is the last man left standing, finds one onto Milan as we get into the final 20 seconds. Virtus.Pro lining up for a take inside of Aviator here, and Chaox is holding on the rotate, just daring to swing onto this one. Could be the absolute party ender here if it plays out well for him. Sees one, but Karjeka hits the shot. Virtus.Pro taking round 1.
What a great start from Virtus.Pro there. It all got underway with that big entry from Rask as he took 99% of Voy's health. He took all of Durza's health and put him in the dirt, and that was really how the rest of the round went. UnKnights with a little bit of a fight back in the midst of things, but Virtus.Pro able to lock things down quite nicely there in round number 1. So they bucked the trend as they managed to get that attacker win onto Aviator Games. That has been a bit of a rarity so far this stage, as you quite rightly pointed out. Now the question is, can they double down? Can they keep this train rolling and get themselves a second, maybe even a third attack?
It's interesting for UnKnights not choosing to repeat that site, by the way. Opted instead to go up to Trophy and Statue. That site we mentioned that is below 50% in win rate compared to the 92% of Aviator Games. The castle being along suggests to me that you might see an extension into Master here. We haven't seen it for quite a while, but you can open up one of those triple walls that look in towards Master, set up the castle barricade on one of the windows that look through onto Master side. In fact, that's exactly what they're doing. Put it on this left window. You can then kind of rotate in and around here quite comfortably and control Bathroom. That's quite exciting if they're going that aggressive.
Certainly is. Now we've got a lot of attention being paid over to the Astro side. We're going to have those vertical holes opened up from Voy, just looking down underneath. So that would suggest potentially we're going to have one of those UnKnights players just underneath looking to hold off on Astronomy window with a vertical angle. They didn't have too much success on the vertical last time around, as they lost Voy downstairs. They did manage to get one kill out of Blaz on the Valkyrie, but the Nitro was unsuccessful, then shut down on the reverse vertical angle. So something that UnKnights need to be careful of here. This is a bit of an old setup, this one.
I was looking for where he was going to go, because I was like, we're at 2 minutes and 50 and you're still doing setups at this point. You want to be careful you don't get yourself just like shot out or whatever might go wrong. We haven't, no. It did get retired for the longest time, and teams started instead playing Kaid, for example, and just denying the wall. Whereas Whereas here, look, not only are you dealing with the fact that there's armor panels on there, you've also got to deal with the Aruni laser gates, a man playing inside of Cubby. There's just a lot going on here, and I think you can see the angles that it enables through. It's more support for the player in Cubby, so he's not completely isolated by himself.
And the reason for the castle barricade inside of master bedroom is just to prevent that player getting picked off from the master window. It just gives a little bit more protection for the one playing inside of statuary. Now Chaoxis is going to try and get aggressive onto that bathroom window. He's going absolutely nowhere, Des. He's got himself locked inside of the shower there, and that's exactly where he intends to stay. Voy, an important part of that puzzle to try and keep him safe. Now Blaz doesn't care in the slightest, runs through, gets himself a kill through the hatch onto Pasha, but more importantly, the diffuser's down, and that could be a big job now for Virtus.Pro to try and get in and collect that.
And 2 frag grenades. They were going to get used below, I think, as well by Pasha, so he wanted to help unsettle the player inside of Cubby. With that really aggressive run-through and drop, it was high risk but high reward. They'll struggle now to get the control they need to force this player out. So for the side of UnKnights, if you want to hold there a bit longer and waste even more time, you've got all the agency to do that.
I picked up on Blaz before in the pre-show, of course, with his entry duties. It's something that he's done quite well. Chaoxis there, able to keep the Cubby safe, just keeping those reinforcements in place. And right now, Virtus.Pro just don't have any answer to this, Des. It's like, it's a jigsaw puzzle where they've got to get that first piece. They're looking for the corners, they're looking for their edges, they're just trying to start building something, but there's absolutely nothing that they can do here.
They've got a little hole here, which will restrict him slightly as one goes in aggressive. Oh! Big 2K coming out of Durza, but look at the clock ace. 2 minutes they have burnt with a player holding a room directly adjacent to the edge of the map. Like, there's a window to get in from the external, yet they've struggled to even step inside, and when they have, they've had 2 heads ripped off, a third in total with Pasha on the downstairs. This has been an excellent defense coming out of UnKnights that Virtus.Pro just could not adapt to.
What I love about it the most is the style of this defense. It's each position is dependent on another. We've got a kill coming in again from Durza there. He's going to hit the Nitro. That's going to be Rasgon, leaving us 1 versus 5. Karjeka with it all to do inside of 20 seconds now, and it's very unlikely that he's going to do anything here. Any kills he gets will likely be impactless. He's not even going to step foot inside of the map, I don't think, just holding his angles for the time being. There's going to be conversations going on in the background here from Virtus.Pro, just taking the opportunity for unofficial timeout, as it were. They'll let the round tick away. But yeah, the really fascinating thing about that defense for me, Des, is that each position defensively relies on another. So you've got your man inside of Cubby, who's being supported by the one inside of Statuary, who's got the rotation into Master, but then the position inside of Bathroom is very important as well, because that's allowing then Chaoxis to shoot off those Hibana pellets and keep the man in Cubby safe. But what's the man in Statuary doing? He's keeping Chaoxis safe, and it just worked wonderfully well. When it goes right, it just looks like it looks like a fine watch, Des, when you open it up and you see those beautiful mechanisms inside, all just ticking around, supporting each other. That's exactly what that defense was like.
I feel like a broken record, but I'm saying that every single week at the minute as well. It's the real beauty in Siege, is those small moments that snowball into something amazing. Like, look at the side of that round with the run through from the Goyo. Imagine he died to Master Window. One, UnKnights lose a man, they lose a C4, which later would end up getting used and securing them a kill. But also they wouldn't have stopped Pasha downstairs with the frag grenades, removing the player inside of Cubby. So instantly, that would have been 2 kills coming through for the side of Virtus.Pro. We'd say, man, UnKnights have made an absolute mess up of this defense. It looks like patchy. They've completely ignored the fact that someone can play below. But because they made that high-risk, high-reward sprint through Master and drop down the hatch, that was the difference maker. That one small thing at the start of the round is what led to everything else going their way. And as soon as Virtus.Pro made the Hail Mary that you're seeing on the replay right now, again, if that had gone their way and they got a kill, okay, round's recoverable. The fact that you lose 2 to Durza, who just hits the big crucial shots, it's crazy. Beautiful round to watch back. Would fully encourage everyone to watch that one back, as again, one of those great examples of what can make Siege so amazing. However, speaking of amazing, you might see something a little bit unique coming out here, Ace. We saw those reinforcements, the mute jammers, the laser gates getting deployed down towards the south side of the map. Just goes to suggest that UnKnights want to be able to keep Virtus.Pro at bay and again deny that vertical play.
The majority of presence from UnKnights at the minute is on that lower floor. The site, of course, is dining and kitchen. We can see at least 4 of their operators downstairs. Now, usually you'd like to have a presence upstairs to try and prevent that vertical attack coming in. Now, obviously, Sledge isn't on the board, which is the operator you would usually choose to do that. But they've got 6 breaching charges, Des, on the side of the attackers. So if they get established upstairs, believe me, there is plenty of renovation work that's going to be done to that floor. So I think UnKnights need to be careful here. I feel like that sledge ban is maybe giving them a little bit of overconfidence here about not holding the top floor, so they've not really put anybody up there to challenge it.
Yeah, no need for right now, I think. It's more about this getting on the vertical downstairs and pushing your way up from the south side of the map that they're not going to give to them. Here they've ignored that, circumvented Spoken, who was playing around Living Library area for the longest time, instead going straight above site and looking to clear out as much utility as possible. The thing is, you can't always rely on the arrangement of those vertical bars or whatever else may be below. It can come back to catch you sometimes, as they've discovered there and trying to remove the mute jammer. Durza holding at the bottom of red. I think it'll be not bottom of red, sorry, bottom of Astro stairs here. The one who's in a spot to make something magic happen as the smoke comes down. Milan gets dropped on the reverse vertical. Unfortunate start, not yet finished off though.
Not for the time being. Very possibly will be collected to try the Toxic Babe canister, but it's not going to quite catch the man, and I'm sure he's got himself to safety now. There are no nitros available for the defenders. They do have a few impact grenades, but it looks like they've been used at this point, so pretty safe upstairs here, Virtus.Pro. The only thing they're going to get caught out with is those reverse angles. Of course, they do work both ways, and there is potentially the opportunity for UnKnights to be able to shoot back up through them. But Virtus.Pro right now, for all the map control that they've had, Des, there we go. They finally got it. They finally got it. Kajeka will be able to open that wall and just give a bit more access into sight. But there we go. The challenge coming up Astro stairs. WTG does manage to find Chaoxys, but Spoken closes down Milon at the same time, leaving us 4 versus 4. 30 seconds left to go.
You know about the man on the left? Oh, he doesn't. Spoken's unknown in here, I think. No drone onto him on the top side. He could play massive spoiler. Another kill potentially coming in from above will finally be secured by Rask. And there's Spoken finding one. Makes it a second in the round. Can he make it a third? No. Pasha's just a little bit better. 3 versus 2. Virtus.Pro with 15 seconds to go. Ace needs to strike now, but hit again. It's Durza playing off to the side. 2 versus 2, and Blaz, the one who's holding on site. They're pushing in with the diffuser in hand. The temporary 2 versus 1 is established. When does Blaz sing? Does he get to connect this one down? He must know about it. He's going to let it connect as it gets stuck. Kajeka in the 1 versus 2 will find Durza, but Blaz hits him from the back. Now be round number 3 going the way of UnKnights.
What a great play from UnKnights once again. I think there's a little bit of an information problem there for Virtus.Pro. Des, we saw them a number of times get caught out.
A number of times, 3 people.
Spoken, unaware of his position. And then another one on the downstairs, I think it was Durza, when the Thermite just ran past, bang, shoots him in the back. They were just unaware of where those defenders were playing. I think, in a way, UnKnights' lack of presence on the top floor, whilst a risk, sort of paid off, because it feels like Virtus.Pro just were overconfident. All right, we've got the top floor, that's fine, we've been given it, in we go, get ourselves shut down. And it was almost as if the information game stopped, the drones weren't being used, and they weren't trying to locate all those defenders because they weren't necessarily in direct positions that were causing a problem for them.
It's beautiful. Well played by the side of UnKnights again. As you said, you probably asked questions around Virtus.Pro's droning throughout the round. But these things happen sometimes. You'll give it to them on the 3rd round at the least. And now we go back again to the most defender-sided site. We saw in round 1 come pretty close down to the wire. As we saw from Chaoxys on trying to take the fight. Didn't quite work out in his favour. Virtus.Pro, that the only round they've won so far. In terms of changes coming through, none really worth shouting out. Again, you see in the Goyo and the Mute, the same as we saw back in round 1. And Virtus.Pro still really standing by this IQ, by the way. We've seen them use it in the previous round too. Mixed effects, I'll say. The intent was there. The end delivery, maybe not quite so.
Maybe not, but this time around, what do UnKnights need to do differently on this site? That is the question. When we're thinking about that Aviator games, what happened last time? Well, we've got to remember last time Brass got in and just very quickly caught out 2 of the players. So they were playing from a 3 versus 5 effectively. So they need to be aware of the potential aggression coming in from Virtus.Pro. It came in through the Astro side of things. So they've got some utility over there. They've got some players over there just to try and support holding on to that north side of the map. That's something that they need to focus on particularly, and just not losing the men in those early engagements.
Here at least it's straight in on the north side. Very Empire-esque, dare I say. Normally it's Joystick who's come pushing in from the right-hand side, so where Rask is holding right now would normally be where Joystick would enter the map. Assume downstairs control, open up Master Wall, assuming it would be a, well, not Master Wall, but the floor below, to remove any gadgets. It's the sort of play that they would go for, whereas here, Rask, with considerably more grace than chucking breaching rounds at everything, is instead on the IQ, looking to see what he can find from below. But good intel work to start things off. I'm always nervous about that mid-round though, Ace. These moving, sneaky members of UnKnights and what they can achieve.
Spoken very much on the front line there, inside a statuary, just battling already with that Virtus.Pro push. Durza is in support. You see him. Surely you see him. He gets the one tap. That's going to bring Milan off the rappel. And he also takes out a Gemini clone at the same time. And this time the start of AVG has gone completely flip reverse of the last time, Des. Spoken gets a kill onto Kajeka, leaving us 5 versus 3 for UnKnights.
Oh, mate. I don't know how to tell you, but the Citizen virus is spreading throughout EUL, it feels, because there's an FMG on Durza. I've only just seen it, but if you remember a couple of weeks ago on Chalet, it was Citizen who popularised playing this as more of a roaming-based setup. You want a shield, want someone to play not so much on the roam, but in a more aggressive defensive position, you take the smoke. You bring the shield, you bring the FMG. We had Leon doing it last week on Rogue. Now it's Durza on UnKnights. I'm telling you, everyone's catching the bug.
We often talk about smoke and how important that utility is in the late round, and that is absolutely true. But so long as you're not reliant on it going into the round, so long as you understand that it's there as a bonus, it can be played in that way, because you don't bring smoke every single round. So one of those rounds where you may choose not to bring smoke, maybe you bring them and use them as a roamer. And that is, as you say, we're starting to see happen on occasion here. And
I love it.
It's a reasonable success so far.
Yeah, honestly, like looking at things like this that take a good amount of time to really kind of fall into favour, it's crazy when you think about it. There's been no massive defensive shifts outside of maybe the slight Jaeger nerf that you would look at and say could lead to that, but Jaeger's still being picked up. So it's just one of those kind of later discoveries that clearly a lot of teams think is good. Rask hitting a wonderful shot onto Blaz, a player that up until now, by the way, 5 kills in 3 rounds, was doing a lot of work for the team.
That to me suggests better intel for Virtus.Pro there. Rask was fully aware of the man at the bottom of main stairs. He knew he was going to find a challenge there, and he was more than prepared for it. 12 seconds left to go though, and Durza starts using those Toxic Babe canisters to slow things down. He's got 0 left, and that is a big problem as WTG gets in behind maps to start putting that diffuser down. Chaoxis is looking to make the challenge. He doesn't know where the man is. He comes out with a focus on the north door, but that's going to hurt him. It's going to hurt him bad as Pasha gets one, but Durza comes through, manages to get one onto Rask. He's 1 versus 2 now. This is going to be a 1 versus 3 clutch if he can close this out. There's a man hard left, does he know? Yes, he gets the pre-fire onto the Ana, but misses his shots. Pasha shuts him down, and that's going to be Virtus.Pro fighting back. And the one site, Des, the one site that UnKnights cannot lock down on defence is our most defender-sided site on this map so far in EUL Stage 2. Everywhere else, they're fine. They just can't get AVG done.
They're saying, look, this is massively unbalanced. We've got to bring that win rate down a little bit, bring things back down to earth and reality. I'm sure that's absolutely not the conversation, but for humour and comedic effect, we'll say that's absolutely the narrative. What I really admire there was WTG. No man, no gadget, nothing was stopping him from getting that plant down. Ran through smoke, C4s being thrown at him, didn't care, got behind a small table inside of Aviator and committed that plant to the ground. Close for Chaoxis, but as you say, couldn't quite see the man. I think he was crouched down, so maybe couldn't see him over the table, unfortunately. 2-2 things currently sit at. You'd argue the 2 defensive rounds or attacking rounds that Virtus.Pro were looking for, have been uncovered. Now it's on UnKnights to win the next 2 and really accelerate things here. Another variation of what we saw of the last strat, by the way. The Aruni and the castle remain in. The Goyo's still here. Now, we've also got Durza not playing on the smoke, but playing on the frost.
Bringing those bear traps along to get them underneath a window and just provide even further cover for the man that's going to be playing inside of the cubby. I mean, for me,
this baffled me, by the way.
How... Look at that.
What was Milan doing?
The thing is, we've got to remember, as we point this out, obviously the players sometimes have slightly different settings to those that we do. In terms of, aspect ratios and things like that, they may play on slightly different to what we're watching here. So sometimes things can fall behind scopes. I'm doing what I can, Des. I'm doing what I can to help the man out, because that's the sort of shot that I'd probably miss with my team screaming, "You see him! You see him!"
You're like, where? Where was he? I didn't see him.
I don't see him. I've got old man eyes.
Didn't see him on my screen. It's the easiest go-to excuse in the world. Let's see how this hold plays out. I mean, last time around, the biggest threat to Durza inside a cubby was the jump in from the window to the right-hand side, and also the assault that came in. Well, it didn't really come in because it didn't get inside the building, but the one that came through onto bathroom window. So I'm really keen to see if he can hold it a bit more aggressively here and what he can do. Chaox has tucked himself in deep here as well. I wonder if he can play spoiler, because for UnKnights, it has been the one that's worked so well for them, playing these kind of later roam or these lurk spots that always catch Virtus.Pro in the mid to late round.
I don't believe Chaoxis has been droned at this point in time. We will see now. The Gemini clone goes in,
out,
but gets cut short. This could be a real big mistake from Virtus.Pro, Des. We've already spoken about this. A number of occasions they've been caught out by players whose position they were completely unaware of.
Oh, a couple of drones coming in. Do they even look?
No, he's still okay.
That's why there was one right in front of them they would have seen. But let's not forget, in the previous round, Blaz had to do the hero play through Master to make this work. Virtus.Pro really want that vertical play by the looks of it. They want to get those nades in. They really want to assault the player out. In fact, it's already been done because Durza isn't even playing there. So forget about that whole conversation. You've still got Chaoxis on the downstairs. Watch out for his roam later into the round as he comes his way, creeping up Aviator. That will be the difference maker. Durza shut down inside of Astro. And again, that Iana just constantly charging around the map. Got the Gemini clones out there to find some information for them. There's Chaoxis. They found him out and they shut him down as if it was never a problem. Spoken the next to fall. A really good round coming up for Virtus.Pro as they go into a 5 versus 2. Blaz finding one back and naded out beautifully by Pasha. 4 versus 1 and 60 seconds to play. I don't see Voy holding on.
Absolutely not, especially not with 27 HP, which is where he stands. WTG comes around the corner, closes things out, and Virtus.Pro feel like they just hit the reset button a little bit at the beginning of that round, Des. It was just really switched on and focused in by comparison. I know we commented on that Chaoxis position, and I don't think, I'd have to watch it back fully, I don't think he was drawn out, but what did happen was that drones were put in place that were being watched, more than likely. And when you're cycling through, what it did do was leave Chaoxis in a position where he couldn't really get out of there without going through the line of sight of a drone. And as we saw, they were aware of that push onto Astro Stairs. They got themselves a kill, no problem. So whilst maybe not drawn in every single corner actively, in a sense of going in and getting that entry kill, they were still doing what they needed to with that area coverage.
I don't think it came down to the drone there because the Iana decoy ran down Astro Stairs and I was like, oh, there's bloody decoys everywhere. You can't get rid of it. And then the shot comes through onto the decoy and no doubt then the call comes in from Pasha. Oh, Astro Stairs. Yep. And Milan's basically arriving into bathroom. He's like, well, I guess I'll just point my gun down there and have a few shots. Easiest kill of their life and just goes to show how valuable, again, that utility is. Otherwise, Chaoxis potentially is crouch walking up those stairs and killing 2 of you from behind. That can be the sort of thing that ends rounds entirely, as we've seen in a couple already today. But Virtus.Pro, no doubt, very happy with the 3-2 they currently find themselves in. They turn this into a 4-2 attack, you'll be absolutely buzzing. And given UnKnights have not won in Aviator games yet, I'm pretty sure they fancy it, Tim.
I'm pretty sure they fancy it as well. They're going to be looking to close this out. And the thing is, it will be a really big half for them. If they come away on the attack 4-2, if you're Virtus.Pro, you're pretty much thinking, right, we've got the defensive Villa in the second half. This one should be locked down. But nothing is ever quite that straightforward in Siege, and especially not in EUL. We always seem to have surprises. Now, a lot of attention being paid to the north side of the map, so it looks like a fairly direct push coming in from from Virtus.Pro, get themselves into top floor, sweep across from the north side, get themselves into 90 corridor and push from there. Now Rask, he's on the downstairs clearance once again. Done some great work with that IQ we've seen so far, using the scanner to clear out lots of gadgetry both above and below depending on where the site was. He's got Pasha drawn in for him actively, but once again, I'm not sure how much information they've got on the location of Blaz.
I mean, this has been the constant conversation of the half, right? Are all these UnKnights members accounted for? The ones off playing on their own, the ones hiding in a little corner somewhere? Villa's a big map, and it can come back to bite you if you're not too careful. Rask has played this entry every single round, it feels like, by the way, except the ones on the south attack, but he's always pushed in below and looked to get rid of things that way round. A good challenge coming in onto Durza from Pasha. I don't think they expected him to be in here, but he's in such a key location, finds Spoken comfortably. Now in control of Astro, they can start moving their way further south. Always good to get rid of one of the roamers coming out, Spoken in this case being removed. 5 versus 4 and still 100 seconds to play.
Still plenty of time for Virtus.Pro here. They don't need to start rushing anything, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Pasha is just going to get into that Gemini clone, move through, gather some information, try and get some vertical angles playing as well. Virtus.Pro certainly not in a rush to go anywhere. The diffuser is going to be put down on the ground for the time being, whilst WTG moves off to possibly make a challenge onto Blaz, who I think they're aware of his location underneath now. They seem to have opened up a hole above him. Not sure just exactly how aware they are. They know that somebody is missing. That much is for sure. But tell you what, they're going to know exactly where Blaz is now as he steps out and gets himself a nice kill onto Rask there, leaving us 4 versus 4. He'll no doubt head up the main stairs now, and that's just going to get him back onto site, and it's a job well done for the Valkyrie.
Wasted a lot of time as well. 2 minutes have gone down. They knew that he was on the downstairs. Didn't use his C4, interestingly. I thought that might be the first, well, gadget/weapon of choice to come out. Even now still dealing with these clams as well. You can see why the IQ was relatively effective for them for the most part, but that really is the first time I've seen them catch out something like about cam, at least on screen, ironically, when the IQ was dead. 4 versus 4 and 30 seconds to play. Virtus.Pro, that clock waits for no one here. If they find one, he sees the arm, surely goes for the spray. Pasha, second time this game, a member of Virtus.Pro has been caught on the rappel or with a limb sticking out where maybe it shouldn't. Milan back onto Chaos. It's 3 versus 3. It all comes down to this, Tim.
Is to try to push in through that north door. Blaz has no option but to try and make a challenge. He gets shut down with WTG on the pistol, who goes straight in to get the diffuser down. More importantly, the Toxic Babe canister missed us. He was on a fraction of HP and it could have stopped the plant, but it doesn't matter as those final 2 kills come in from Virtus.Pro. They close out round number 6 and give themselves a 4-2 advantage going into their defensive half.
WTG will run through anything. It'd run over a landmine if it meant he got to get that diffuser down, because again, you're on what, 10 HP? A single intake of that smoke gas is going to kill you. You'll be out. The round should then be done. But just in case that failed, they still had the flank coming in from the backside as well. Down 90, so a multifaceted attack coming out of Virtus.Pro gives them that 4-2 attacking half. UnKnights, they move onto the attack. Virtus.Pro, no doubt very confident and comfortable on the defense, are going to start things off on the downstairs site. Dining and kitchen going to be where their first defense takes place.
Interesting choice from Virtus.Pro. I kind of like it though. I think you've come in 4-2. If you get what would normally be the third choice site lockdown, you're 5-2, and then you've got to go to AVG and Trophy Statuary, you start feeling pretty confident at that point in time. So yeah, I think I like this choice. It's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but Virtus.Pro no doubt confident in if they don't get it over the line, they're still not in a terrible position. They've still got plenty of opportunity to push forward and win this one now. Some interesting rotations being opened up upstairs as well. Suggests that we will have a presence up above.
Interesting.
That is a nice little Valkyrie cam. Just going to provide information on anybody that gets inside of the utility area there, trying to look for that hard breach onto the wall. So I like the setup that's coming out of Virtus.Pro here. We've got a little bit of diversity, a little bit of top floor play. We've got rotations opened up. We've got an intel game. They're sort of ticking a lot of boxes.
Oh, that's nice. Can't really see very much though. As nice as it is being completely stuffed in there, there's still, please don't shoot your own cam. Please, Ras, don't do that. I honestly thought for a moment that he might get away with killing it, and I'd be like, no, absolute meltdown. Whereas Milan's job, by the way, was charge around and shoot anything that could hold a drone. So there's no chance for any sneaky drones to creep in. Virtus.Pro still very much on the anti-information game here, leaning towards something like the Mute. We've seen that coming out of both teams. The C4, the transformational shotgun, as well as the SMG. We've seen some pretty nasty shots with it throughout the stage so far. Looking over to the side, though, look at the change in lineup for the attackers. Nomad being one of them, the other being that Flores. I love seeing Flores lately. It is so powerful and present at forcing teams back, removing crucial utility without ever putting yourself at risk. And you've got 4 bites of the cherry with it, Ace, when you've got those 4 Roteros online. WTG, how is he still alive?
He's took a good bit of damage off of Voice, so not a terrible start for him, but there is a lot exchanged in return, as you say there. That's going to leave WTG down on about 10-12 health, so he's going to need to think about possibly getting himself back towards site. But for an early engagement, not the end of the world for Virtus.Pro. They've certainly let UnKnights know that they are there. Now, interestingly, they've got a man playing upstairs as well, just holding a vertical angle for the time being. Rask is going to move off that. Spoken manages to find those final few hit points off WTG. Now then, does Rask know that there's one underneath? There's a second if he looks, but I don't think he's aware. He won't mind though. Nice headshot onto Blaz, levels things out at 4-4. In comes the nade though. Sit down, Milan. Durza absolutely deleting the man with the vertical nade.
More like take a nap, my son. You've been had by a frag. Unbelievable. That is into the 4 versus 3. A great advantage for UnKnights on the attack. They've been met with a bit of resistance on their own, with individuals pressing up at windows to find early kills, but so far have dealt with it perfectly. In these final 60 seconds, though, you've really got to see that pace pick up and look towards the execute. They're starting to get what they need. Ras finds one from above. He's been holding that angle for about 2 minutes, and finally, it pays off.
Sometimes you've just got to hold them down, and this is a problem now for UnKnights. Rask is above. They know Rask is above. but they don't really have time to start going up and pushing him. In comes the nade, not successfully. Kozheka with a great response, can't get a second with the shotgun as Durza manages to just muscle his way into sight, but Rask is still above and still a problem. Pasha, he shuts down Durza. Route 1 straight to the problem. Voy, he tries to push in. He's on low health. He's only got about 50 HP, and it's that Mandez. Rask up above. UnKnights completely failing to deal with him, even when they knew he was present. With 35 seconds left to go, it's just not enough time to get up there and clear him out. They had no option other than to just try and play into sight anyway, and Rask, he knew that and held his position beautifully.
It's always the battle you've got, and in 2 versus 2, you're really going to bail on the plan to go for a plant or push into sight. You do not have the time. Of course, you'll ask the questions of how then in the first 2 minutes have they not droned this guy out? How have they not taken a plan to have someone push up to the windows inside a master, for example, someone to push in from bathroom? There would have been ways to deal with it if they'd been aware of it a little bit earlier on. Either way, 5-2, Virtus.Pro, very commanding position right now. We spoke about the early round attack coming out of UnKnights wasn't too bad. They did deal with the kind of roam play coming out of Virtus.Pro. They had answers to most things coming in, but just couldn't actually find the kills that then cement that into an advantage. Now that we're in the second round and we've seen what that first site was, we'll step into a more expected site here, playing on Aviator Games.
Gonna have the deployable shield on top of the maps table, one that I always like, Des.
Do you know what's actually on that table? Do you know the game? It's an Ubisoft game. It's Ruse.
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know that there is a lot of Easter eggs in this map. It's interesting that you say, when we saw the spawning, I nearly mentioned the Assassin's Creed fountain.
That gets mentioned, I think,
that's outside.
probably every single game on Villa.
It doesn't get mentioned every game.
You know,
Thank you, Medics. There we go. Medics is going to show us.
Thank you,
For
Medics.
anybody who hasn't seen it, Villa is laden.
Gee, for the 25th time in my career, I've seen that emblem now.
Villa is laden with lots of little Easter eggs like that from other games and from Siege as well. There is a Tachanka hidden inside somewhere as well. That's another one for people to go and find. I won't spoil that one for you. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. There's a bit of shouting can be heard near the well as well. There's a well outside. If you go near it, you can hear a voice like somebody's trapped in the well, I think.
The Ruse one always tickles me. Big RTS gamer, so I love seeing stuff like that on there. Anyway, this isn't... I guess actually it kind of is a game about hiding and surprising people, as that's what we've seen coming out of both teams throughout the game so far. More UnKnights, I'd wager, than Virtus.Pro have played it a little bit more straight and narrow, at least in that first defensive round. This one going to be much more expected, I think, and this is where you should see the Roteros start to shine. Given they've got 4 of them, removing utility shouldn't be a massive problem for them, unless, of course, you're looking at something like a Mute Jammer in play. But for now, it's the frags doing the work. The first one coming out of Durza, connecting just fine, despite there being a Jaeger, and that's a great shot coming out of Chaoxis onto Rask.
Talk about connecting. That one connected straight with the skull, and that was a great opener from Chaoxis. 5 versus 4, but UnKnights did at times have the advantage last time around. Virtus.Pro just showed they were very capable at playing from that disadvantaged situation on defence. But are we going to see Aviator Games once again playing out as being a difficult site to hold on to? Now, we saw this the other day, if you remember, Des. We've got the Maestro cam just looking to clear out. There you go. Look at that. Very aware of the Rotero drone coming in. We saw those Rotero drones forced in through that north door previously to clear out the ADSs, the deployable shields, all around maps and vault doors. They just one after another went in, clearing utility after utility. And it's an important area to get a hold of if you're going to push from that side.
Oh,
here we go. Exactly from this position.
And there's one more on the other side. So what I do like here actually is the presence of mind from Virtus.Pro, not to stack them like most teams normally would and put 1 and 2 together. They've got all 3 of them spaced out pretty fairly. That I don't even know if one in the middle of both of these would actually destroy both at the same time. Hopefully, Blaz decides that he wants to serve as a good tester of that theory. Right now, pushing down 90, wants to shield that WTG is sat behind on 90, and I think he gets rid of it too.
I think it probably would, but I think it'd have to be quite well placed.
Perfect.
Yeah, it'd have to be pretty well placed to not miss one or the other. But we know that these players are more than capable of that now. WTG manages to take out an air jab. That could be big. Leaves the drone. Great trigger discipline, but it's not going to matter. As Spoken, the coach covering for UnKnights, comes round and absolutely removes WTG from the round. 3 versus 5 now, and this is becoming a pressure cooker for Virtus.Pro. But they get fused. They get formed into diamonds here under that pressure, as one kill after another rains in from Pasha and Kozheka, and that is going to be the round from Virtus.Pro. Absolutely clutched out of the jaws of defeat.
Really good from Pasha as well, holding down the door, then rotating into Study to help his friends on 90, one of them being down. Otherwise, that could have been a pretty intense 1 versus 1, but it's Virtus.Pro at match point, 6-2. UnKnights struggling to find much in the second half, albeit they've only had 2 bites at the cherry so far. Honestly, you've poisoned my mind with that saying. I keep on saying bites at the cherry because you said it so much earlier in the stage that it's all I can think of now when I say, oh, they've got one more chance. No, it's another bite at the cherry.
Bite at the cherry does.
Another bite at the cherry, as you'd say.
And absolutely nothing like that at all.
You say bite like bite.
Bite.
Bite. Bite to the cherries.
Well, talking about bites of the cherry, Des, Virtus.Pro, they're going to have one at a match-shaped cherry here as they are 6-2 now and in absolute command of this game against UnKnights. They are looking pretty solid right now, and I think UnKnights are probably going to struggle to come in and take a round off them on the attack here. We're going to have what looks like an interesting setup on the defensive side. I would suggest, Des, that looks pretty roam-heavy to me.
Just a little bit, or on the fact that reinforcing on the downstairs here could try and electrify the wall coming up from the below. So that is really interesting because Rask, again, as we've seen, pushes in through Pantry, for example, comes in and starts doing his work. Now, yes, they got Blaz's drone. Felt like something out of a movie, just seeing the man turn with the gun towards the camera and then shoot it, something like out of a Bond film. But he's seen all he needs to. He knows there's a commitment to the downstairs. Here they had 2 players on the downstairs looking to hold it from below. So where from UnKnights you've seen the defense inside of the wardrobe, for example, and a hold inside a bathroom. Totally different sort of setup here coming out of Virtus.Pro. They want the vertical.
We've got Rask on the vigil all the way down in basement. He's hiding himself away, and this could be a play to watch as the round progresses because Rask so far has really used that verticality very well here on Villa. I've shouted it out a couple of times, and could be another one here. If UnKnights don't get the drones down into the basement, it could be big trouble. Big trouble comes in the shape of Pasha, though, as he gets a big double to open things up. 2 headshots, Spoken and Voy. They are gone, Des. 4 versus 3 inside the first minute. 4 versus 2. There comes Rask on the vigil. Pasha on the nitro. Kajeka to finish things off. And Virtus.Pro, they close out what can only be described as complete domination.
Absolutely, that is. Complete domination is the only way to describe this match as played out. Pasha, especially in that final round, on fire. But it wasn't just that round. Dotted throughout the match. Massive plays coming out of him. And for a player that I'd say, apart from last week, has looked a little bit shaky throughout the stage, going 14-3 is one way to make a name for yourself. That is going to save his stats for the season, I'm sure. Really impressive performance out of Virtus.Pro. And again, it doesn't mean anything for a major hope here, but it's a message going into stage 3 that they mean business.
24 kills between Pasha and Rask there. Absolutely unreal from that duo, and what a performance from Virtus.Pro. I think, I've said it countless times, I'll say it countless more. You can only beat the team in front of you, and boy, have they done that today.
Well, they've made an absolute meal of that game, and now the Bears will go into hibernation until stage 3. Let's get over to our desk and have their thoughts on this game.
Bear on desk checking in. Yes, they will go